Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be watching us today. This is a quick histology review on the different types of epithelia. Our references for today are Junqueras' textbook on histology and Netter's Atlas of Histology. We will proceed with a quick quiz as follows. Can you name with me the different types of epithelia? We will be discussing each one of these in depth later on. Number one is simple squamous, two is simple cuboidal, three is simple columnar, four here is pseudo-stratified columnar, five is stratified squamous, non-keratinized, and six is also stratified squamous but with a keratin layer on top. Seven is stratified cuboidal. Eight is stratified columnar. And nine is urothelium or transitional epithelium. A key distinction in epithelial layers is the difference between simple versus stratified layers. Simple epithelium simply means that there is a single layer of cells, whereas stratified epithelium implies that there is at least two layers of cells. Pseudo-stratified epithelium is special in that there is actually only a single layer of cells, but the cells are arranged haphazardly such that the cells give off the impression that there is more than one layer when there is in fact only a single layer, pseudo-stratified epithelium. We start with simple squamous epithelium. This is a light microscopy of the serosa of the urinary bladder and the corresponding electromicrograph of a capillary endothelial cell. Simple squamous epithelium lines visceral cavities, lumina of vessels, and tubules of the body. The epithelium is extremely thin and delicate and is susceptible to histologic artifact during preparation. It serves as an active barrier for rapid diffusion of many substances such as water in the loop of Henle, which is in the nephron, air diffusion in the lungs, endothelium of blood, and lymphatic vessels. Clinical correlation: malignant mesothelioma is a rare and aggressive tumor that can arise from the parietal and visceral serous membranes of the pleural, peritoneal, and pericardial cavities. Pleural mesothelioma, to be specific, is the most common type of mesothelioma. It is commonly associated with asbestos exposure and can have a long latency period from initial exposure to the onset of symptoms. We dissect the parts over here. Number one here is the mesothelium. Two is the connective tissue underneath. Three is the lumen of a venule, which is basically a smaller counterpart of a vein. And four, lining the venule here is an endothelial cell, which comprises the endothelium, also shown here in electron microscopy. Five, only visible in EM is a mitochondrion, circular structures here, mitochondria, and six is the basal lamina. We move now to simple columnar and pseudo-stratified epithelia. Shown is a light microscopy of the inner lining of the gallbladder, and below it is a light microscopy of pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium with goblet cells, lining the upper respiratory tract. So that we will recall it in more detail, we'll start with a dissection of the different parts. One here is simple columnar epithelium. It's just a single layer of cells which are all shaped like columns. At the bottom of these cells are the nucleus of the columnar epithelial cell, the respective columnar epithelial cell. Below the simple columnar epithelium is a lumen of a venule over here. Below it, we go into pseudo-stratified epithelium. 4 is the ciliated border or the cilia of the pseudo-stratified epithelium. Number 5 here is the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. In this case, this is found in the respiratory tract. It's called pseudo-stratified epithelium again because it's actually just a single layer of cells, but the cells are arranged so disorderly, so haphazardly, giving off the illusion that there is more than one layer, but there's only a single layer of cells. 6 here, the transparent cell is the goblet cell, which is very common in the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar respiratory epithelium. And the very bottom of the pseudo-stratified epithelium is the basement membrane. Simple columnar epithelium over here lines the small and large intestines, inner lining of the stomach, major ducts of glands, convoluted tubules of the kidney, gallbladder, small bronchi of the lungs, and even parts of the male and female reproductive tracts. The base of each cell, over here where our cursor is, rests on a basement membrane, and the apical surface, which is over here, the apical surface, contacts a lumen. The nucleus is ovoid in shape and is centrally or basally placed. The epithelium is mainly found in sites engaged in protection of wet surfaces, absorption of nutrients, and secretion. Below here, again, is the pseudo-stratified respiratory epithelium, consisting of more than one type of epithelial cell that show variation in size, shape, and function. The basal layer belongs to replacement stem cells that retain mitotic potential. The more apical, that is the more superficial layer, belongs to tall columnar cells, many of which bear cilia on the surface. Whereas all cells contact a basement membrane, only some reach the free surface. Mucous goblet cells are usually present in this epithelium, and a clinical correlation is that epithelial metaplasia occurs when one type of mature differentiated epithelium is converted to another adult form. In the airways, for example, metaplasia of respiratory epithelium to a stratified squamous epithelium. So in this case, the pseudo-stratified epithelium becomes stratified squamous, can occur as a protective response to chronic cigarette smoking. This is a schematic now of simple columnar epithelium and an electromicrograph of the brush border of two enterocytes in the small intestines. Dissecting first again the different labeled parts here. Number 1 is a nucleus of a columnar epithelial cell. Number 2, seen in EM only, is a microvillus. 3 is the glycocalyx. The glycocalyx is on top of each microvillus. And fourth is the tight junction. Tight junction. 5 more uh, basally located is the intermediate junction. The intermediate junction is deep to the tight junction. And this structure over here, this ovoid structure is a desmosome. 7 is a lysosome. The lysosomes are the organelles responsible for organelle and structural degradation. And 8, of course, the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. Simple columnar epithelium consists of a single layer of cells that are taller than they are wide. To increase their surface area, the free surfaces of the cells often bear microvilli. Microvilli are thin, finger-like cellular projections, and when they are prominent, uniform in size, and tightly packed, they constitute a brush border. Brush borders that consist purely of microvilli are found at the apical borders of enterocytes in the small intestines and proximal tubule cells of the kidneys. The major function of these cells is absorption, and malabsorption of nutrients can occur if there is damage to the microvilli. Moving now to stratified squamous keratinized territory. First is a light microscope image of stratified squamous keratinizing epithelium of the epidermis, and below it is the corresponding electron micrograph. Dissecting the different labeled parts here, we see so this area over here where I'm marking a star is the superficial layer, and below it with a happy face is the basal layer. Superficial part, this is the basal part. Labeled in number 1 is a basal cell, so it's in the basal layer over here. 2, only seen in the electron micrograph, is the dermis being comprised chiefly of collagen. Number 3 is the nucleus of a keratinocyte, and 4, in the more superficial layer, is keratin, which is why this is stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. Stratified squamous keratinized epithelium is tough and resilient, and it's mainly protective against abrasion and dehydration. It also prevents invasion of pathogens, bacteria, and other infectious agents. In the epidermis of the skin, the surface layer contains dead cells devoid of nuclei. Their cytoplasm is transformed into plates of the protein keratin, which strengthens and waterproofs the tissue. The epithelium has a dry and scale-like surface, and it also lines the outer surface of the tympanic membrane, parts of the oral cavity, and mucocutaneous junctions. The keratinized epithelium that constitutes the epidermis is renewed every 15 to 30 days. Basal cell and squamous cell carcinoma are the most common types of skin cancer. These malignant growths can be caused by overexposure to the sun, chemicals, and genetic diseases. And a diagnosis is usually made by a simple biopsy of the affected area, wherein we reach up to the basal layer, such as in this square illustration. Follows is the light microscope image of stratified cuboidal epithelium lining the duct of a mucus gland, and below it is stratified columnar epithelium of the male urethra. So again, above is stratified cuboidal, below is stratified columnar epithelium. Dissecting the different labeled parts here, first, again, this is stratified cuboidal epithelium, specifically in the duct of a mucus gland, and surrounding it is connective tissue stroma. In the stratified columnar epithelium below, this is the stratified columnar epithelium of a male urethra. Below it are some capillary vessels, and in the basal layer of the stratified columnar epithelium is the basement membrane, or BM. Stratified cuboidal and stratified columnar epithelia have a limited distribution in the adult. They both contain two or more layers of cells, and because they are stratified, they are primarily protective and better suited to withstand wear and tear. Stratified cuboidal is usually made of just two layers of cuboidal cells. It lines the ducts of sweat glands and other exocrine glands. Stratified columnar epithelium is in the pharynx and in the larynx, conjunctiva of the eyelids, major ducts of exocrine glands, and parts of the male urethra. It also occurs at sites of epithelial transition, where it is interposed between two other types of epithelia. Such interfaces are abrupt and can occur in the epiglottis and in the recto-anal junction. Our clinical correlation here is urethritis being inflammation of the urethral lining that can be caused by viral or bacterial infection. The infection causes infiltration of white blood cells and swelling of the submucosa. Finally, our final type of epithelial layer, the transitional epithelium, also called the urothelium. Dissecting first the different parts labeled here, this is an umbrella cell. An umbrella cell which is found only in transitional epithelium. Below it, the different nuclei of the basal cells of the transitional epithelium. And deep to it, the lamina propria, which is loose connective tissue. In electromicrography, we see the apical plasma membrane, and below it is the junctional complex, also called the tight junction. Still deep to it is a nucleus with a nucleolus in the center of the nucleus. The transitional epithelium is a multilayered epithelium found in the lower urinary tract, where it lines the renal pelvis, ureters, urinary bladder, and part of the urethra. The appearance of urothelium is not static because it rapidly adapts to distension and contraction by changing from a tall epithelium, which is many cells thick in the empty bladder, to a thinner epithelium when the bladder is distended. Umbrella cells are highly dynamic cells at the luminal surface that are able to cycle apical membrane components to accommodate the change in cell surface area. Our clinical correlation here is transitional cell carcinoma, or TCC. TCC is a malignant neoplasm of the urinary tract arising from the urothelium of the renal pelvis, ureter, or bladder, and it is usually fatal unless treated. We take a quick detour on different exocrine glands. Multicellular exocrine glands are classified by the shape and the arrangement of their secretory units. We'll play a quick quiz now, as in the previous slide. Let's identify the different types of exocrine glands here. Number one is a simple tubular gland. Number two is simple acinar gland. Three is simple tubuloacinar. As the name implies, it is a combination of a tubular and acinar cells. Four is compound tubular. Five is compound acinar. And six is compound tubuloacinar. These exocrine glands can be tubular, acinar, also called alveolar, or tubuloacinar, which is also called mixed. They are further classified by the structure of the duct system as either simple or unbranched. So simple or unbranched, as in sweat glands, and compound or branched, as in most organs such as the pancreas and liver. Glands may be classified also by the nature of their secretion. They may be mucus when the secretion is viscous glycoprotein called mucus. They are serous when the secretion is watery and enzyme rich, or mixed when the same gland produces both serous and mucus secretions. Glands may also be classified by their mode of secretion. Merocrine secretion, merocrine secretion, which is the most common type, involves the release of secretory vesicles from the cell by fusion with its plasma membrane. Apocrine secretion, on the other hand, such as in the mammary gland, involves the release of the apical cytoplasm of the cell. Finally, holocrine secretion, such as in sebaceous glands, involves the disintegration and release of whole cells. Again, merocrine secretion, the most common type of glandular secretion, involves the release of secretory vesicles from the cell by fusion with the plasma membrane. Apocrine secretion, such as in mammary glands, involves the release of the apical cytoplasm of the cell, and holocrine secretion, such as in sebaceous glands, involves the actual disintegration and release of the entire cell. Focusing specifically on serous cells are polarized secretory cells that produce a watery, proteinaceous secretion that typically contains enzymes. They are found in secretory units of pure serous glands such as the parotid, the lacrimal gland, and the exocrine pancreas. They are also present in mixed seromucous glands such as the major and minor salivary glands of the digestive tract. Focusing now on the different labeled parts here, one is a Golgi complex. And of course, the prominent nucleus is seen here. We have some mitochondria over here labeled as number 3. And 4 is a secretory vesicle, one of many secretory vesicles in a serous gland. And here, in number 5, is the lumen of a serous acinius. Serous cells contain condensing vacuoles that concentrate the secretory product and give rise to electron-dense vesicles, such as labeled in number 4. The vesicles are also known as zymogen granules. Zymogen granules. They accumulate in the apical cytoplasm for temporary storage prior to release. The contents of the mature secretory vesicles are discharged from the apical part of the cell by a mechanism called exocytosis. Our take home here, zymogen granules, the other term for secretory vesicles. We now look at an example of mucocells. This is a light micrograph of a seromucous gland in the trachea and the corresponding electromicrograph of a mucus acinus in a mixed salivary gland. Dissecting the different labeled parts here, this is a mucus acinus labeled as number 1, and here more violet in color is a serous acinus. This is a mucus acinus, and the darker stained structure is a serous acinus. Seen in EM is a secretory vesicle or a mucus droplet. Of course, a prominent nucleus over here, and below it, RER or rough endoplasmic reticulum. Mucus, also known as mucin, is a highly viscous glycoprotein that provides protection and lubrication to surfaces. Cells that produce mucus have a wide distribution in the body. They are found either singly as goblet cells, such as in the epithelium of the digestive, respiratory and reproductive tracts, or they can be in groups, such as in tubules or acini. Most notably, they are encountered in the majority of major and minor salivary glands of the oral cavity. This is a schematic diagram of a tubuloalveolar gland, a TA gland, and the corresponding electromicrograph of part of a secretory alveolus in a lactating mammary gland. Dissecting the different labeled parts here, one is a myoepithelial cell in this particular tubuloalveolar gland. Two is the duct servicing the different myoepithelial cells here. Three is a lumen of a respective alveolus. Four is the apical plasma membrane seen here in electron micrography. Five is a lipid droplet. And six, the intercellular or tight junction over here. Seven corresponds to RER, a rough endoplasmic reticulum. Prominent structure over here is nucleus, and inside it is nuclear chromatin. And superiorly is a mitochondrion, a mitochondrion. Each mammary gland consists of 12 to 20 irregular lobes, each lobe consisting of a compound tubuloalveolar gland. The size, shape, and structure of these glands change with age and functional status of reproduction. During pregnancy, the simple cuboidal epithelium that lies the alveoli undergoes hyperplasia and hypertrophy under stimulation of prolactin. Branching myoepithelial cells that enwrap the alveoli contract in response to oxytocin to eject milk. So it is the myoepithelial cell responsible for contraction of the alveoli.